Hello, my name is Anthony Ferrarisi of Sportgevity. I'm here with my lovely wife and assistant for today's video, Araceli. She's going to help me demonstrate the half-kneeling hip flexor stretch. This stretch might not be new to you, but in today's video, I'd like for you to focus on some of the small details and the intention behind the stretch to see if you can get a little bit more out of it. And for those of you who are new, pay even closer attention so that you can get it right the first time, right? So the half-kneeling hip flexor stretch is going to help us stretch out and loosen up some of the muscles along the front side of our thigh and some of the deep hip flexor muscles that are within the lower abdomen here, right? Now, these muscles tend to become tightened, especially for those of us who sit long hours, whether at an office desk or even in our commute, in the car or on the train, for long hours throughout our weeks, right? And for those of you who are recreational athletes and combine that with your sports, this may be even more beneficial, all right? So what I'm gonna have Araceli do is get into a half-kneeling position where her left knee remains on the floor and her right foot is flat, right? So the first thing we want to be intentional about is the alignment of our spine and hips. And that means going from our ear to our shoulder to our hip. We want to have a nice straight line, all right? Now, the part of the body that may not be in alignment, and I want you to pay close attention to, is your hips, right? Now, I want you to place your hands on your hips, right? And imagine that your hips are a bowl of water, right? So, now I want you to adjust your hips so that you're trying to pour some of that water out through the back. Something to think about here is tucking your tailbone underneath, right? And as soon as you do that, you might immediately start to feel a stretch deep in here in your hip. You feel a little bit there? Yeah. Good. Now to maintain that position, I want you to engage your abs, all right? So as if somebody were gonna come and maybe punch you in the stomach, right? Or just get really tight through the abs and around that area, all right? While holding that now, I want you to move your hips slightly forward to intensify that stretch a little bit. Make any adjustments you need to stay in a balanced position. Maintain that tucked tailbone position, right? And hold it there. Now, right now we're performing the static version of the stretch, which I recommend pre-workout if you are working on correcting some muscular imbalances. I wouldn't recommend the static stretch before any power exercises or going for a training session, whether it's on your bike or running or performing weightlifting movements for that matter. We'll cover a version of that very soon. Alternatively, I would recommend performing the static version of this stretch after training, whether it's after a workout or after training for running, biking, swimming, any of those, right? Now, if that feels pretty good and you want to intensify the stretch a little bit, we're going to take the same arm that the knee is on the floor and reach it straight up over your head. While maintaining your hips forward, let's say, think about keeping your belly button facing straight ahead. Now rotate your shoulders towards the knee that's on the ground. And that will help intensify it. You can go ahead and come out of that stretch. Now when we're performing the static version, you would want to hold this for a minimum of 30 seconds. You can do it up to 60 seconds or maybe a little bit longer. Shouldn't take much longer for you to feel a little bit of a release and lengthening in that muscle. And you can repeat anywhere between 1 to 3 times if you're doing this exercise. Of course, do it on both sides of your body for symmetry. Now, I mentioned that this was the static version of the stretch. If you are going to perform this before doing any sort of power training or strength training for that matter, or even before hopping on your bike for a long training session or a long run, you're going to want to perform the active version of the stretch. Let's cover that real quick. So, same positioning. Go ahead and place your hands on your hips. Again, I like to do the hands on the hips so we can get the hip alignment right. tuck your tailbone under, or again, imagine that bowl of water like you're trying to pour it out through the back. Engage your abs. Now, instead of going into the stretch and holding it for a long period of time, we're going to push into the stretch, squeeze through your glutes and hold for 2, 1, and then come right back out of the stretch. And we're going to repeat that. Again, squeeze, 3, 2, and back out. One more time, 2, 1, and come back out. And you would repeat that anywhere between 5 to 10 repetitions. Or again, I mean, we're all individuals. Might take you less stretches to feel a nice activation, a nice stretch in that area, or it could take you a few more. Play around with it, see what works for you.